know, I was still spending more than I was making. At that point, I was a financial advisor. And
That's your job.
That was my job. I was working at Morgan Stanley, helping people plan for retirement, teaching retirement seminars. And I met this ordinary couple that came into my office at the age of 52, Jim and Sue McIntyre. They had an ordinary job. That year, they had made a little over $53,000. Their average income over their lifetime was $40,000. And at 52, Jim put out all the statements on a table in front of me. I sat there and added them up, and they had a net worth of $1.8 million. And I sat back at a table just like this and said, how did you do this? And they had just been in my class for 4 weeks. They're like, David, we did a lot of what you talked about, but we didn't have a budget because budgets don't work. And they talked about why budgeting didn't work for them. They said, we put everything on autopilot. We saved money automatically for everything. And that was the moment that changed my life. I realized that day, as somebody who was living paycheck to paycheck with a high income, these people had half the income that I did, and they were able to retire at 52. I was in my mid-20s, and I realized that if I didn't start saving and investing, if I didn't change, nothing was going to change. And I would never have the financial freedom that they had. And so I went home that day, and I changed everything in my life. Now, I had a lot of bad habits, so I had a lot of things that needed to be changed.
You were the senior vice president at Morgan Stanley when you stepped down, and you soon after wrote this book called Smart Women Finish Rich. It begs the question, what are the differences that you saw through your process of financial education that women face versus men?
I was in business with my father, and we had a lot of older clients. And I would sit in on meetings one after another with widows. So in the first month of my career, I sat in 3 meetings with 3 widows where the husband had dropped dead suddenly. And my dad at the time was teaching these women how to read their broker statements, how to write checks, and how to know if they would have enough money. And I thought, this is crazy. And I said to my dad after the 3rd appointment, Dad, what's going on here? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I go, well, you're teaching these women when their husband has just died how to handle their finances. And he said, David, not all women are like your grandmother. Your grandmother was a rarity. And I said, Dad, that's crazy. I'm going to go out and teach a class for women and money. And when I started teaching a class for women and money, here's what I learned. Here are the things that make women different than men when it comes to money. Women, first of all, live longer than men, which means they need more money than men do. The average age of widowhood in America when I wrote that book originally was 57, Stephen. Now it's 59. Okay, you do all these shows on longevity. It seems like everybody's living forever. They're not. Okay, the average age of widowhood in America is 59 years old.
When you say widowhood, you mean the age in which a woman becomes a widow?
Exactly. They're married and they lose their husband. Okay, so women are often wiped out when that happens financially. The second thing is that women are hurt more than men when it comes to divorce. The third thing that affects women is that they work fewer years. I'm like, these are just the statistical realities. Women work fewer years than men because they have children. So that's an average of somewhere between 7 to 11 years less, and that's less money going into Social Security, retirement accounts, and it affects their earnings. And often they earn less. So what I have taught for nearly 30 years now is, as a woman, I don't care what your situation is. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mother. I don't care if you're married to a local bank president. I don't care if you're married, single, widowed, divorced. As a woman, you have to be in charge of your finances. Period. Drop the mic. End of discussion. You can't delegate your financial well-being to anyone else. You have to be in charge. Now, I will also tell you, Stephen, that women make better investors than men. They make better investors than men because often women don't trade like men do. And they do more research before they invest, and their performance is better. They're way better at long-term investing than men are.
I heard some stats once upon a time that men are the majority of the gambling addicts.
Well, I'm sure they're the majority of the gambling addicts. And also when you look at trading, because trading's become a very big thing, but trading's always been a thing.
Trading meaning?
Trading, like trading stocks, buying and selling stocks. Now it's buying and selling cryptocurrency, buying and selling options. All of these things are primarily men doing it. and they don't make money because the bulk of people who trade lose money day in, day out, and year out.